the next topic of the show, I really want to talk about the hedge funds. We talked a lot about them in 2013 and a little bit in 2014 because they had such a prevalent impact on the real estate market in Tampa Bay. And when I say hedge funds, I'm talking about the groups out of Wall Street. You know, they started in Wall Street. Most of them have IPO'd now, so most of them are now publicly traded. You know, not to name names, that there's about a handful of them. You know, and they are buying homes again in Tampa Bay, and some of them are starting to sell homes in Tampa Bay, sell off inventory. There was an article not long ago that said that if all the hedge funds, all the institutional investors in Tampa Bay sold their inventory, they'd make a 33% profit on appreciation, you know, based on when they bought. I think the interesting thing about the hedge funds coming back, it fueled our market. There was a lot of positive from it. There was certainly some people that felt like there was some negative. But there was a lot of positive. They bought a lot of homes. They created a lot of jobs. They helped prices go up. You know, I talked last month on the show that, you know, everyone whose home grew in value in that 200 and 300 range needs to call up all those hedge funds and thank them and send them a Christmas card because their equity gain was because of you know, a lot of the hedge funds. But Joellyn, you guys work with a lot of the institutional investors, and I know they're kind of streaky, but it doesn't appear that they're going to be buying, at least at this point, in the surge that they did a few years ago, but they're back buying homes again in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, they sure are. I mean, we've worked with a few of them, and we are consistently getting, you know, orders 10, 20 at a time, all closing cash, you know, within 15 days or so.
And that's one of the things that we've always offered at our company is the you know, immediate buyout programs where we can have an investor, you know, buy homes immediately, including us. We buy homes. You know, you can go to WeBuyTampaRealEstate.com if you're interested in one of the immediate buyout programs where we can put your property in front of any of the hedge funds. Again, it's WeBuyTampaRealEstate.com. Or any of our other websites. If you talk to a representative of my company and you're interested in that, just relay that you're interested in that so we can get you the right information, because we do have a variety of different, you know, home selling programs. But speaking to the hedge funds, you know, they buy cash. They like a certain product. I mean, they tend to like a relatively newer, at least 3-bedroom, 2-bath home with a garage. They like it to rent. You know, generally they like it to rent and make at least a 10% cap. You know, they like turnkey. You know, but it doesn't have to be massively updated. And they tend to buy in the 100, I would say the 100 to 300,000 range. It seems to be about their wheelhouse. So if you live in one of those neighborhoods, you have to expect that you know, they potentially may buy and have some interest. And if you're selling, you know, in one of those neighborhoods, that's one of the benefits. If you're buying in one of those neighborhoods, the downside is you might have to compete with them. We've talked a lot on the show about how to compete with, you know, an offer from a hedge fund, how to, you know, make your offer stand out, how to you know, beat the hedge fund cash offer. But, you know, Joellyn, speaking of, you know, kind of the hedge funds, generally we're talking a quick sale. You know, they're cash, it's clean, it's light on inspections. I mean, they're a pretty strong buyer, and a lot of people I think have a misconception that they're coming in and lowballing houses, and that's not really what it does. They come in with pretty strong fair market value offers.
Yeah, they really do. I think the appreciation in the market in general has kind of helped, you know, bring their offers up. So they're not necessarily stealing the property, but I think it makes their numbers work in terms of what their margins.
And I think because rent values have risen, they've jumped back in. And a lot of people look at it and say, you know, well, what is it about Tampa? And it's interesting because I talk to the analysts, and I have friends that are real estate brokers across the country. And we go to different events. Next month is the annual RE/MAX convention. I'm actually going to be on stage being interviewed by the founder of RE/MAX in the general session in front of like 10,000 agents. So I'm excited about it. They were at our office shooting video on Friday for the segment they're going to do. But so I get to meet agents, you know, that work with the hedge funds all over the country. And one of the things that I've learned is the hedge funds have pulled out of a lot of markets. They've stopped buying a lot, but they're still trudging along in Tampa Bay because of how much potential they see in our real estate market, how much our market has made them already. I mean, they can already see that they've done really well in Tampa Bay. Yeah. And I think that, you know, so knowing that they're going to continue to be a force in our market, I think that, you know, it's further evidence to me that these groups have people that they pay millions of dollars to analyze markets and determine where to buy, right? So to me, you know, just looking at my little, you know, generic spreadsheets and the cool little things we can do at the MLS to look at statistics, if these guys are paying millions of dollars to expect Tampa's values to continue to rise, I think it's a pretty good sign for our market. I also think, and Arnie, you can kind of speak on this, I think it's a great sign for people thinking about refinancing that are maybe a little short on equity. Maybe they're $10 or $15 or $20,000 from where they need to be from a value standpoint to be able to refinance. The hedge funds come back in the market and values, they force values up in those price ranges. It's going to free up more people to have the equity to be able to refinance.
Yeah, because a lot of they come back in the market meaning selling the properties that they own.
Right, yeah.
Yes. Excellent. Actually, I think the hedge funds, they actually bought up a lot of properties at lower costs, and that hurt values for a while. But now if they're going to start selling, that's going to be a huge boost, because obviously your house is going to be worth what the other houses in your area
and
are.
It appears that they are starting to sell. I mean, we're already seeing them starting to sell inventory and sell them off. And again, they look at it and say, we can take profits, we can make our return, and let's get rid of some of these. And so some of those higher prices starting to go through. And I think, again, you're going to see a great piece of and I think, again, if they're continuing to buy in Tampa, they're doing it because they know the values are climbing. There's no emotion in it for these guys.
Right.
It's all about the bottom line.
Right. It's all numbers.
If they feel like they can make a return and values are going to rise, then they're going to buy, and that is great evidence for the normal home buyer or home seller about the the stability of our real estate market.
And they manage it like a stock portfolio, right? Because they look at it and they say, okay, we've had a big run up in appreciation. Now
Let's sell off.
Now it's time. We're not done, but it's kind of leveling off a little bit. It's like it's going to be normalcy as far as appreciation is concerned.
Right. So if they take their gains, those sales show up, and then it helps values in the neighborhood.
Exactly.
I think the other thing about it that's interesting when you look at that, there's also the concern, and I think they're smarter than the mortgage banks. I think the private equity guys. That's true. But in reality, I always thought to myself when I saw the banks selling off foreclosures, sometimes I'd see them do things that didn't make sense. Like an example would be, there's one sale in a particular neighborhood every 6 months, and then all of a sudden the same bank lists 3 homes in that neighborhood at the same time. It's like, that was stupid.
Right.
Why would you do that?
Right.
I think these guys are smarter than that, and what I mean by that is, the only overlaying concern that people have about the hedge funds is that if prices do rise and they get pressure from their investors, they're all IPO'd and publicly traded now, which means they're forced to make returns.
Exactly.
So the concern is if they have a bad quarter, that they start selling. They just dump a lot of inventory to make profit, and then it could flood certain markets. So there's some concern to that, but I think they're smart in that. I don't think they'll do that. I think that they'll at least control how much inventory they put out there so they don't oversaturate and they don't cause them, they don't shoot themselves in the foot and they don't hurt the market at the same time, because they're still looking to do business in that market. So but that's a concern.
It's all about the numbers, right? It's all about the numbers.
There's a concern that people have that, hey, look, they could dump a lot of inventory at once and then oversaturate it and then drive prices down. Because they need to make a return, why would they do that to themselves?
Exactly.
Then
I think the other properties.
Right. Versus the banks who are unloading inventory, they're already making returns on mortgages and other things. I mean, these guys are they're only tracking the money they make buying and selling and renting real estate.
Well, the banks unloaded inventory only because of the reputational risk of holding on to the foreclosure, or because they were mandated to sell some of this stuff.
And it's different because they got some government money
Government
and all
money,
that. The hedge funds are different in that they have people living in them. They're generating cash flow.
Right,
they're not vacant where there's as much risk. I mean, I can't say they don't have vacant homes. I mean, they'd have vacant homes, but they rented most of their homes. They bought these homes to rent them out and hold them for a certain period of time, and then kind of turn it from there. But it's interesting to kind of talk about the hedge funds again. I had a talk with my real estate team because in 2013, about 25% of our business was working with hedge funds, whether it was helping the hedge funds buy homes or whether it was selling homes that we had listed or sellers that we had generated that wanted to sell directly to the hedge funds. It was a good portion.
Hedge funds, do you think there are out there that actually are?
I think there's a handful, 5 or 6, I would say. Yeah. I mean, there's probably 2 or 3 that are really that were really heavy in our market, and then a couple of others that are much more selective. Would you agree, Joellyn?
Yeah, I would say there's about half a dozen, and then maybe another 3, 4, 5 that aren't as big of players.
Right, that are small, just kind of more local type stuff. And I'll tell you, I think that the other side of looking at the hedge fund piece, in terms of looking at it from that standpoint, in terms of how many and what they're buying, I think that it brings stability to our market. But so I spoke to my team and I said, hey, look, here's the thing, guys. A couple years ago, obviously it was a big portion of our business. I don't want you guys, it's like, I don't want them spending too much time attempting to do hedge. We don't want to abandon our core client. Our focus is helping normal buyers and sellers buy a home, sell a home. That's our core business. The hedge fund is really a solution for our home sellers that don't want to go through the hassle of selling their home. They contact us and they say, hey, I don't really want to deal with people traipsing through my house. I don't want a lockbox. I don't, those are perfect candidates for, the immediate buyout I talked earlier, where we can just literally
Right.
package it up right to the hedge fund and say, hey, look, here's what the hedge fund will buy your house for, or here's what a couple different ones are offering, to pit them against each other. So I think, again, it's a solution, but unfortunately, there were real estate companies out there that allocated all of their resources to hedge funds a couple years ago, and now they're struggling. They're almost out of business. They had to figure stuff out, and I think it's key to any successful business or real estate brokerage to have kind of that balance to to not be so stuck into one piece of business. So